What is going on, my fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks, the weekly pop culture podcast from Central Michigan Life, where we discuss all things geek culture, which is like high culture, but better. If this is your first time joining us, make sure you follow the CM Life Instagram and Twitter pages for updates on the podcast, and to look for us wherever you find your podcasts, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on our website at www.cm-life.com. My name is Brendan Valentine, and I would like to thank you all for joining me and my fellow co-hosts for the first episode of Season 3 of the podcast. My co-hosts will introduce themselves in a second with our question of the week that we normally start with. This week's question is, what Harry Potter house do you think you are in? Personally, for me, Pottermore said I was a Gryffindor, but I think I'm more of a Slytherin. I don't think I'd get sorted into Gryffindor. I feel like I'm a little more snaky than that, but then I will pass it off to Hope. Introduce yourself and answer the question.
Yeah, all right. So, hi everyone. I am Hope Gooderl, the other host, the co-host of today's episode. My Hogwarts house, because we're going to specify between Hogwarts and Ilvernoy, which is in the United States, but not many people know the houses of Ilvernoy. So my house is a Hufflepuff. I am a true Hufflepuff. I don't trust Pottermore anymore because I have literally gotten every single house. But I know that I am a Hufflepuff, and I also know that if I asked the Sorting Hat to put me in Gryffindor, I would be in Gryffindor. But other than that, I'm a true Hufflepuff. Like Newt Scamander, you know, got my little niffler here. Yeah. Today's episode is going to be awesome, right, Brendan?
Absolutely. First episode of Season 3. I'm kind of hyped. Yeah. We had a little break there, and there's been a lot that's been happening. So we're going to get started how we normally get started on the podcast with some geek news. So, Hope, what have you got for us?
All right. Well, many of you geek people out there know that Marvel and Disney have a ton of shows and movies coming out this year, which, yes, because if we still have to deal with this pandemic, we need stuff to watch. But today, super exciting news, the first 2 episodes of WandaVision have come out. So you get roughly 2 hours of new content of Wanda and Vision and their life. That's setting off phase 3 or 4. Phase 4 of the MCU. And speaking of MCU, how we all thought that Chris Evans was no longer going to be Captain America, there are now rumors going around that says that Marvel's trying to get him back to play Captain America, although not necessarily for a Captain America movie, but maybe like a smaller role. So I've been thinking like Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, maybe, especially if Wanda is supposed to break the multiverse and Doctor Strange is supposed to fix it. And especially like if we're getting Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3, I really want Cap to come back. And also, I don't want Falcon, if he is supposed to go and be new Captain America, to just get like overshadowed and not have representation. But I do love Chris Evans. So, you know, I'll be happy to have him back.
My favorite theory has been a limited series following Cap putting the stones back.
Oh.
I would like that, but again, like I feel like the way they bring him back has got to be with tact because I don't want him to overshadow Falcon. And like as much as I love Chris Evans, Captain America, Endgame kind of set him off as like, you know, that was it. But
yeah.
All right. So for news that I've been getting a lot of ads in the past 2 days, and it's been obnoxious. So I figured I'd share. For those of you Fortnite fans, apparently the Green Arrow has been added as a new special character in Fortnite. And as an Arrow fan, but not a Fortnite fan, I don't know how I feel about this because as I've seen it, it looks like, in my opinion, it might be a tarnish to Stephen Amell's legacy. However, if he plays well and is a good character, I'd love that. However, just Fortnite ads are bombarding my phone. And right now I'm like, really? That was the most serious character we had on TV, and now it's Fortnite, which, I mean, I'm sure for some people it's very serious, but for me it's not the most serious of not necessarily of games, because it's competitively crazy, but like Fortnite and Call of Duty have a very different aesthetic.
Hmm.
I'd also like to mention that DC, for any DC Universe subscribers, I'm sorry for your loss. It has officially been retired. However, the DC Infinite comic book service will be launching soon. So for any of you DC comic nerds, from what I've heard, it's pretty similar to the Marvel Unlimited one, where like all of their properties are kind of put in one place, and it's just a monthly subscription, which I'm excited for. Maybe getting if it's in a decent price range, because there are a couple of new events coming out that I'd love to read. Also on the comic book side of things, the Star Wars High Republic book series has started releasing, with the first two coming out this on January 6th, and the next one coming out February 2nd. So any Star Wars fans looking to invest in a little more pre-Phantom Menace era Star Wars, those books have come out and are on sale. So highly recommend. From what I've heard about them, I haven't got my hands on them yet, but they're on my list. And then as of today, at like 3 or 4 hours ago, at the time of the recording of this podcast, we get our first images of the new Mortal Kombat reboot movie. The last ones were not cinematic masterpieces, to say the least. However, after seeing some of the images, I am hopeful.
I just remembered another piece of news for people who like the Russos as directors and producers and Tom Holland. The Apple TV trailer for their movie Cherry has dropped, and it looks so freaking cool. I can't wait to see the actual movie, because seeing Tom Holland as like that many different characters after watching him be Spider-Man, an adorable child, like so.
Oh, Tom Holland's got range, like
yeah,
for sure. I respect him a whole lot as an actor. So if that's it for our news, getting into our main topic of today, since it is a new season and a new year, it is now 2021, we decided that it might be a decent idea to go over like a recap of the geeky things that we got in 2020 that kind of helped us get through the year. That was kind of a bit of a film drought, a bit of a TV drought. Things that some of the things that we want to talk about are like reminiscent of old things, but a lot of the things came out in 2020. However, Hope and I were talking, and over the holiday season, it seems like Harry Potter movie marathons have become like a holiday tradition on a lot of networks, and we get them throughout the year. And I know I watched them at least twice, and Hope, you mentioned that. So we were just going to talk about the bingeability and just some other like fun Harry Potter stuff before we move on to the other 2020 binges. So Hope, where do you want to start?
Well, I'll start off with the fact that my dad, so I am a huge Harry Potter fan, along with my sister. Harry Potter was actually like the book series that got me into reading. And my sister and I, when we saw the last film, which, okay, first off, how iconic is a movie series that all you have to do is say, it all ends here, and then write a date out, and in a specific font and like colors, and everybody knows that it's the last Harry Potter movie. Like, what? But yeah, the last movie, we cried in the theater and held hands because of all the sadness. But so this year, my dad, so that he could finally sort of understand the references that my sister and I would say to each other, we went through the entire series and the Fantastic Beasts movies. And these movies, I mean, the Harry Potter series, it's not like the Star Wars series where you're like, what movie do I start with? No, Harry Potter, just start with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone for all y'all and like the rest of the world. And go through that series, watch those 8 films, and then watch the Fantastic Beasts movies. Because, I mean, in my opinion, the Fantastic Beasts movies, you need the Harry Potter knowledge to know what's fully going on in Fantastic Beasts, instead of like the other way around. Like, they're technically prequels, but I mean, you need the knowledge. Would you say the same thing, Brendan? Or
I only watched the first Fantastic Beasts movie, and I watched it after I got my wisdom teeth out. So it's very, very like hazy. I know what happened, and I know like character names and everything. Ezra Miller was in it. I remember that. But I mean, I'd have to agree. Kind of like referencing the Star Wars stuff. I'm always a big proponent of, if you've seen them before, watch them 1 through 6, because it's a very different experience. But if you haven't seen them before, then like watch release order just because of like spoilers. And I feel like that's kind of the same for the Harry Potter movies. Like if you haven't seen them before, watch them release order. But like if you want a different experience, like watch them chronological order, kind of get that. However, I'd say that's probably more true once all of the Fantastic Beasts movies kind of release. I know 3 they're still working on, but they planned 5, didn't they?
I think so, but it'll be interesting to see now that Johnny Depp, they don't have him there anymore. I mean, not like it's that hard to recast for Grindelwald, but also like to see how they do the storyline for the 3rd movie and see what they do with that. That's going to be how they can decide if they're going to do 5. Plus, the other thing was a lot of people were upset with the first title, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, because they expected it to be more of where to find all the creatures instead of here's the prequel to Harry Potter and events leading up to everything. So I think that kind of like pushed people away. But if we get people back with like with the 3rd one, I think that would be really good.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, my expectation going into it was like, oh, the story of Newt Scamander, but then we get the whole Grindelwald reveal at the end. I'm like, oh, that's not what this is. But then like going back to like the main Harry Potter stuff too, I think like because for me, like it was kind of a shock. Like this season was when I really realized like, oh, they're using this as a holiday movie. And I like the first 5, yeah, there's always like the Christmas scene, but then 6 and 7 is just like, no, it's so dark and dismal. There's no more time for Christmas. But the thing that like kind of like hit me this like past watch around too is just like how deep a lot of things are. Like I finally not finally, every time I watch them, I come up with a new question about the world, but a lot of them like have answers and I just need to look them up. But this one didn't have an answer. And that is after I watched Half-Blood Prince, like that, I think it was like the 2nd scene in the movie where Narcissa and Bellatrix go to Snape's house and like make the unbreakable vow. I never thought about this before, but if Snape has a house, like does he just not stay there during the school year? Does he stay at the castle? And then like all of the like teachers, I assume they just stayed at the castle, but if Snape has a house, what's stopping the rest of them from having a house? And there's not an answer to that.
I mean, that's fair, but I think, I mean, personally, other than like maybe Dumbledore and Trelawney and like Hagrid, I think there are some that the idea was that they have other obligations too, because Snape is such an amazing potioneer, and he can, like he's known for a lot of things. Like I'm fairly certain he was the one who came up with the potion for werewolves, to help with the transition.
I don't think he didn't come up with Wolfsbane, but he might have come up with something.
Well, it wasn't
different.
Wolfsbane, but there's like a specific potion because in the 3rd.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, can't remember the name of it. But how Lupin would drink it and then he could just curl up in his office and be a sleeping werewolf. I think Snape came up with that potion using ingredients like Wolfsbane. And like Ben also said, it's super easy just to like apparate from one place to another.
They can't apparate. I thought about this too, and I was going to mention that. But Dumbledore is the only one that can apparate inside and out, like in and out of the Hogwarts grounds. Like, yes, in theory, they could just like walk off the premises.
Yeah.
Or like fly a broom, but also like to me, like it still begs the question: like, do they stay? Because in the first book, like they get caught by McGonagall sneaking out after dark, not just Filch. Like most of the times it's Filch, but like I would assume, and then like during Chamber of Secrets, all the teachers are on patrol and all the time. Like, do they have a place to stay in the castle or do they go home? Is it like a mix to the, and I was not able to find an answers, but like, it's stuff like that, that like when watching the movies and I'm like, this is definitely like more timeless than a lot of like media that you're going to get. Like 20 years from now, I'm sure like people will still be watching Harry Potter and some things that we watch today, we might not be watching.
Yeah. Well, and I know like Rupert Grint has come out and said that he would love to be part of the remake. And I know a lot of people are like, Emma Watson should be Professor McGonagall if they do a remake. And honestly, I also don't see them making a remake of the movies for a very long time, just because they were so well made, especially considering that they started in what, the 90s, early 2000s.
Early 2000s. The first book
Yeah.
came out in 99. I think the first movie came out in 2001.
Yeah. So, like, all of the CGI stuff, still relatively new. And the fact that they were able to make it look that good, like, I think it'll take a while before they even think about making remakes.
Mm-hmm.
Although,
I
was gonna say, one movie that I would love for them to make is the founders of Hogwarts, like, and
mm-hmm.
how it came about. But that's a later conversation.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, it'd be one thing if like Harry Potter was owned by Disney, because Disney is like, we will make whatever money we can off of this property. But I don't know how much like extended universe Harry Potter stuff we're going to get on the big screen, just because I think Warner Brothers was like, Fantastic Beasts, we got this, and then that failed. And it's kind of like what has happened with like the DC universe on screen. Is it's like we had these big plans and they didn't work. What are we going to do? So I'd say probably by 2025 we might have a clearer plan. But I'd say in the next 5 years, I'm not really expecting anything new, and I'm fine with that, because the Harry Potter movies, I feel like they can hold their own at least for 5 more years for sure, if not like
Almost
decades.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think as far as like how long they're gonna last, there are still kids today picking up Harry Potter books and reading them and loving them, and then wanting to go watch the movies. So I don't see anything really happening with them
Mm-hmm.
in the next few years. I think it's definitely trying to get Fantastic Beasts going again, and trying to like finish off the Grindelwald and Dumbledore. I think I will give Warner Brothers props for the end of Fantastic Beasts 2, because they left it on a cliffhanger that both my sister and I went, that's not possible. What the heck is going on? And it's kind of sort of spoiler-ish, but it's revealed that there's a possible other Dumbledore sibling.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and there was only supposed to be Albus, Alberforth, and Ariana. And so, like, we're trying to figure out what the heck is going on with that. So I think if they went off that plot line too, that pulled in a lot of people to be like, wait a minute, something's not right. Explain.
Was the other sibling around the same age as Ariana? I didn't watch the movie, so I don't know details, but like...
So Ariana died. For some reason, I'm starting to think that that's not the proper name for her, but
No, it's Ariana.
It is Ariana. Okay. She died when she was younger. The story was that it was something to do with Dumbledore, with Albus Dumbledore, because she idolized him. But based on the second Fantastic Beasts movie, there is a theory out there that Ariana actually had an Oculus inside of her. So essentially she had magical power, but it didn't blossom. She kind of squashed it down. And it consumed her and killed her. And so the theory is that if she did have an Oculus, that it went and attached itself to baby Credence. Because he's not the same age as Ariana. And so it's interesting, and it's one of those, like, I keep going, okay, is this fan theory, or is this true, or what's going on? And I need the third Fantastic Beasts movie so much right now. Like, if it could come out this year, that would be fantastic. But
I've heard that the cliffhanger might be related to Ariana's accident.
Yeah.
So, which is the seventh book, the whole like the what's her name that Rita Skeeter wrote. I said her name in like an American accent and it sounds wrong. But that like whole book, I'd have loved to, like, as much as her writing is awful, I'd love to actually, like, if J.K. Rowling like wrote or like gave us something that more than just the excerpts in that'd be fun. So before we move on to like other bingeable things, I think we have to ask like the very obvious question of who is your favorite Harry Potter character, non-core three? So no Harry, Ron, Hermione.
Oh gosh. Okay. So like I know I'm not supposed to love Draco, but I do love Draco. But honestly, I think my favorite character is Seamus.
Oh,
Seamus
really?
Finnegan. Yeah. I don't know if it's just because of the actor who played him, or
Your dad's a
the
muggle, mom's a witch. I'm half and
bit,
half.
yeah, bit of surprise when you find out. Um, but I don't know. There's just like he's kind of like that comedic relief character, but also the character that you go, well, he's a half blood, and he's from Ireland, and all of this stuff. Like I feel like there could be a story with him too that we aren't told, but also the fact that like he's basically really good at pyrotechnics and he gets a lot of things blown off his face or like his eyebrows or the bald patch. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love Seamus. He's really good. What about you?
However, I do got to give to Seamus. He's the same type of character as Cho Chang, because I mean, if you've heard like J.K. Rowling, okay, you make one Asian character and you name her Cho Chang, but then the one Irish character, Seamus Finnegan, and he's good at blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
And when I was like realizing that now, I'm like, oh man, that's another stereotype. But for me, non-core three is definitely Luna.
Oh.
Because I don't like, I'm just so envious of her because like very clearly she's kind of an outcast, like even like prior to book five. But like she's so optimistic and stuff. And even like she's still an outcast like throughout the books, but like she like kind of finds her own group and everything beyond just like Ginny and is like fine with the whole, I don't know. I especially like after book seven, like her going through all the torture and everything after getting taken from her dad. It's like, she's not just this little weirdo. She's very strong and resilient too. So like, I liked her getting added in. I know she was only in the last three books, but I enjoyed having her around.
But if you say that, and I absolutely love Luna too because I think she's a great character for any kids who need someone to like help them gain confidence. Because you just look at her and it's like, oh yeah, people steal my stuff and they spread it around the castle, but it's okay. We're just having fun, and I am who I am, and that's why they're doing it. But also, I'm not gonna change. And like, she's so kooky and adorable, and loves pudding. And so the fact that which, if I'm fairly, that's like not American pudding. It's like just like dessert, I think, in general for them. But yeah, I love her too.
One of my favorites is like the scene transition in the sixth movie where it's like when Harry's talking about who he's going to take to Slughorn's party. He's like, I'll take someone I like, someone cool. And you cut to Luna in that ridiculous dress. Like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, that's not who I thought you were talking about, but perfect.
But like that's so perfect too, because it's like she's herself and someone else thinks that she's cool, and like it's such a good role model.
I like Luna a lot.
She's awesome.
So normally here on Raving Geeks, after we finish our main topic, we go on to recommendations. But we figured with like we kind of like an extended recommendation section with discussion kind of at the end here to kind of go over other things in 2020 that we like were released in 2020, got added onto in 2020, got modified in 2020 that kind of helped us get through this not optimal year. So Hope and I are going to go back and forth and kind of share some of the things that we thought. I thought I might go first. One thing that was kind of like shorter that I really liked was Big Mouth season 4. Came out closer to the end of the year, and I love Big Mouth. It's a show on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, it's like this raunchy animated adult comedy produced by Nick Kroll and John Mulaney, both of which are great comedians. And I don't, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Season 4 was not the same as the rest. Like all the other seasons pushed boundaries on like kind of what you can say on TV. And then season 4 just got kind of gross. But it's still fun. It's still entertaining. Would highly recommend, and I'm so glad we got another season of it and that they were able to work on it virtually, because I would have been very disappointed if I had to wait another year for season 4 of Big Mouth. But
I will admit that I've never seen it, but the fact that it's Nick Kroll and John Mulaney has always made me want to see it. But like, I feel like personally that I have to be in a specific mindset and mood to be able to watch it, because otherwise I'm just gonna be like, this is stupid. Why am I watching this? But also,
Friday
like,
night fun with friends, like if you're in
yeah,
like a good atmosphere, good mood, is a great place to start it. Or if you really want an episode that's good to get into to kind of like ease you in, season 2, episode 1 is my personal favorite. It has my favorite joke in the whole series in it. So
all right, I can do that. That's definitely a on the bucket list with my roommate to watch over the next semester. Um, if so, I love. There's only one season of this so far, and it's on Netflix. So being a huge King Arthur story fan, I absolutely loved the show Cursed, which is a twist on um, the King Arthur series. You have all of the same characters. You've got Merlin, you've got Arthur, Gawain, Morgana. Everyone's there, but Arthur isn't the main character. It's a female fae who is named Nimue, and um, it and like the idea is that the sword chose a female first. Yes, Brent.
Faye, like Morgan Le Fay, or
Uh, like fairies.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking like related to the witch, and I was like, oh, cool. But
Um, no, Morgana is actually in a essentially nunnery. She and Arthur
like nunnery, like religious, or nunnery, like nunnery.
religious,
Okay,
like take in those who need help, and
got it.
take the vow of
Poverty and chastity.
yeah. And because essentially Arthur and Morgana, their father and mother both died, and so he sent her away to go live with the nuns so that she could have a better life than he did, trying to scrounge for food. Actually, that's a lie. He didn't send her away. She was taken away because of his father's debts after his father died. And so she went there. But yeah, it was really good. I will admit that the first episode and a half threw me for a loop because I'm so used to the regular King Arthur story that hearing all of the actual names, but it's not going the way that I know, was weird. But I got really into it, and it was really, really good, and I highly recommend it.
That sounds really good. They came out in 2020.
Yes, I believe so.
Nice. I'll have to look into that. Cursed.
Yes.
All right. For any video game players, specifically single player open world stuff, this year we got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I was looking forward to. But in order to prep, I decided to try and play through the Assassin's Creed series again. So if you haven't played Valhalla and are planning on it, highly recommend. But I would also recommend going back through the old games, because there's so much stuff in there that people can pull out. I'm a little bit of a history geek, and all of the stuff that they can relate in all of the extra stuff, all of the side missions and everything, the little bits of information that you get that kind of tie into the Assassin's Creed timeline and are weaved in with our own history, I thought were really cool. When I first played through the early games, I was freshman in high school at the oldest. So there was a lot of stuff I missed, and playing through them again, I'm like, this is why I liked the games for the gameplay the first time, but there's so much stuff. And then moving on to Valhalla, I have not been hugely thrilled with the newest Assassin's Creed games, because I really liked how things were kind of condensed in the first couple, but they've gotten so vast and expansive. But with Valhalla, as much as like that still kind of exists, I like a lot of the new stuff, like the new twists that they put in there. It's still Assassin's Creed, but they're still evolving. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping, it's a good sign.
Well, if you're going to go off with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, um, because isn't Ragnar Lothbrok one of the characters in that one?
Um, like one of the side characters that gets brought in.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't finished it.
Okay. Because the reason why I bring that up is because there is a show on Amazon Prime called Vikings, and the final season, season 6, like just came out right before the new year. I haven't watched it yet because I'm still back in season 4. But it's about Vikings, and Valhalla is the afterlife, and like kind of like heaven, but like basically just like the good place. You're not dying, and you have
Well, Viking heaven,
yeah,
which is just you get to fight all day, and if you win the fight, you get a big feast, and then it starts all over again tomorrow.
basically. Which for them that was their thing. And contrary to popular belief, Vikings were actually very cleanly and like civilized humans. So we should have gone with the Vikings instead of, what we went with. But anyways, can't go back and change the past, unfortunately.
Not yet.
But okay, so if you love Alexander Ludwig, who has been in so many different things. He was in Race to Witch Mountain when he was younger with Dwayne Johnson.
I forgot about the movie, but that was so good.
That movie was so good. I love that movie. It's on Disney Plus now. He was in the recent movie Bad Boys for Life with Will Smith and oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Yeah, but yeah, so he plays Ragnar's oldest son, Bjorn, and to say that like this series is boring would be an absolute lie, because there's so much, like there's little storylines woven in, and like and it's so factually accurate too, because the creators were very much like, no, what does this look like? What would this have done? It's so good. And season 6 just came out, and I have been trying not to watch all of the clips on YouTube and spoil it for myself, because I love the characters so much. I do get mad at Ragnar a lot of times, but Lagatha, who's played by Catherine Wernick, is an absolute boss at being a shield maiden. She is gorgeous and amazing. And yeah, if you like action and history, I highly, highly recommend Vikings, watching from season 1. And if you want to watch it just for Alexander Ludwig, which honestly, that's why I started watching it, I'll be honest with that. He doesn't come in until season 2, but season 1 is still really good. And so, yeah, I highly recommend watching Vikings.
Sounds good. I've heard good things about Vikings. That started on HBO, didn't it?
It was a History Channel show originally. Yeah. And then I think History Channel kind of sort of went away or lost money for it or something. And so Amazon Prime picked it up. So if you have
that has happened a lot.
Yeah.
Like where something gets dropped off like a major TV network, a streaming service picks it up, and all of a sudden, like it's #1 charts.
Yeah.
I know that happened with Lucifer.
Mm-hmm.
What else got moved to streaming service? Brooklyn Nine-Nine? No, that's still on TV.
Well, Brooklyn Nine-Nine went to a different...
They went to a different network.
Yeah.
They went to NBC, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, but then something that I forgot was 2020, but that took up like honestly months of my time this year. Was Star Wars: The Clone Wars Season 7 came out like back in, what was it, like March or April when it started first releasing, and then like that got me to rewatch all of Clone Wars, and then I watched for the first time all of Rebels, and all that stuff. So like the Star Wars Disney Plus content is always bingeable, always worth watching. But like Clone Wars season 7, kind of revamping that, giving like breathing a little more life into that part of the franchise, I definitely think was, at least for Star Wars geeks and then people that got into Star Wars over quarantine, was definitely like a high point.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if anyone knows like the final lightsaber duel between Maul and Ahsoka, that was done, like it was motion captured and then like with the original actors, or the original actor for Darth Maul that played him in Phantom Menace, and like that was just one of the coolest fights in Star Wars of all time. And I'm still kind of like writhing in that. What's the right word? Basking in the glory of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, maybe. Because that, like, the anthology style of Clone Wars definitely leads to a lot of bingeability. Like there's a lot of like, not like one-off characters, but like characters that show up in one arc that you kind of like learn a little bit about. And then heck, with Clone Wars spawning new series now, like that season 7 like laid the ground for Bad Batch. I know we probably still would have gotten Ahsoka and Mandalorian, but like we got to see Ahsoka again. What's the other one? I think it also kind of spawned what they're doing with Droid Story. But I'm not sure. But like all of the animated projects that Star Wars is doing is like has been based from Clone Wars. So like that's my highest point of 2020 was Clone Wars season 7. I know Mandalorian kicked butt, but like Clone Wars season 7 was the beginning when like things were really hard. We were still adjusting, and like it kind of breathed some life into areas of my day that I just needed, pick me up. So
now Clone Wars is animated, right?
Yep, the movie and the show.
Okay. Would you recommend that people watch it while trying to do like a Star Wars marathon, like how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're supposed to watch like certain seasons or certain episodes between, or would you say watch it separately?
Okay, that's what I did. When I was deciding to watch Clone Wars, I watched like season 1 and I'm like, I should rewatch Phantom Menace, watch Attack of the Clones, finish this, then watch Revenge of the Sith, Solo, Rogue, because I hadn't watched Solo at all. Rogue One, or Solo, Rebels, Rogue One, and then the rest of the movies. I still haven't watched Resistance. However, I still feel like which is the new animated one, but everyone's like, that's for kids, and I'm like, so were Rebels and Clone Wars. But
it doesn't matter if you love the fandom, like love the series.
I just haven't gotten into it, but I think there's like almost 3 seasons now, so it might be something worth watching. But heck, if anyone's watched Resistance, tell me in the comments if it's worth watching, and I will try and catch up. But I wouldn't recommend it if you're just trying to do a movie walkthrough. However, if you're thinking about doing like an extended, if you've seen the movies before, if you've watched Clone Wars before and you just kind of want to rewatch, and like if you want emotional value, I know Disney Plus has like the stuff that they assigned like for if you wanted to catch up on certain highlights in The Mandalorian that were relevant from Clone Wars and Rebels. I'd watch those episodes and those arcs. The Mortis arc, if that rings a bell for anyone. The I don't remember the official name for it, but the arc where Ahsoka's framed for treason in the Jedi Order, and then the Siege of Mandalore arc are must-sees if you really have to see like the top ones, but there's plenty of other arcs that are amazing in that show. So,
okay. Nice.
And then do you have anything else that was like bingeable, came out 2020?
So I have one more. This movie didn't come out in 2020, but it's part of a series that was supposed to have a movie coming out in 2020. So the movie Hobbs and Shaw, which is part of the Fast and Furious series, which they were supposed to have Fast and Furious number 9 come out this year. And then it got pushed because of COVID, and I will forever curse COVID for ruining that. But
we got like, that was the one Han was supposed to return, right?
Yeah, and it was so weird because I'm like, Han's dead. We literally had a story arc that
Cyborg Han.
Like, what's going on? I am so confused because the whole point of Derek Shaw coming in was because Dom killed his baby brother Owen, and so Derek killed Han so he could get to Dom, and I'm just like, Han's alive, but there was a fiery explosion. I'm really confused.
It's like that TikTok trend. It's like, I'm dead. I'm alive, but I'm dead.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I feel like that's just like cinematic whatever, or like TV universes. They're dead, but not really. But they can come back at any time. We just want you to get you to cry, that's all. But yeah, Hobbs and Shaw, Dwayne Johnson, and oh my gosh, I always forget his name. Guy who plays Derek Shaw, Jason Statham.
Oh yeah.
They are absolutely hilarious together. And then we also have a Ryan Reynolds cameo in it, and it's beautiful. And yes, okay, this is gonna sound weird coming from me, but like, if you watch WWE and you know who Roman Reigns is, he is also in Hobbs and Shaw because he's one of Hobbs's family members. So Dwayne Johnson's family members.
Weren't they they weren't like officially rivals in WWE, but like they fought, didn't they?
No, because I think Dwayne Johnson was before Roman Reigns' time.
I know they were different eras, but I thought I thought there was something with them. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, they're cousins. They are technically cousins, along with the Uso brothers. Like, they're all related. And unfortunately, the Usos were not in Hobbs and Shaw. But Hobbs and Shaw is so funny, and like, it's beautiful. And if you need something that's like a pick-me-up and you want action and really good acting and Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, like, watch Hobbs and Shaw because it's beautiful. You don't need a ton of knowledge from the Fast and Furious movies. Like, having just like a little bit so you know what their rivalry is about, but you don't really need that much knowledge, and so it's like really nice as a standalone film too. And there's not as much like fast cars as much as just like the meaning of family too. But it's really good, and I highly recommend it if you've been missing Fast and Furious and you're trying not to freak out about the whole Han being alive thing.
That there's so many movies that were just like, yeah, we'll do it when we're done, when COVID's done. And I'm like, okay, now there's just so much stuff. Because like, they're done, they're produced, they're ready to be, sent out. But then like the developers just sitting on it, like, we know you won't go to the theater and you can't go to the theater, so we're gonna wait so we can get more money. But I never saw Hobbs and Shaw because I don't know. I felt like it was I was already disappointed with the last like 3 Fast and Furious movies because like the first 5 I guess minus Tokyo Drift. Tokyo Drift's still good, but like I really liked like the kind of car aspect of it too, and I feel like they kind of lost it in the last couple. But that's, it's been commercialized, it's been popularized, so like what else like can you expect? But well, I don't know. I'll definitely give Hobbs and Shaw a shot.
The other thing, like with the series, like moving away from cars, is the whole idea between like what Dom was doing and like what their group was doing was a lot of street racing, and they kind of had to move away from that, especially with Brian being FBI and like trying to go clean and everything. And like be legit. And so I think that's part of it. They still do have like
Fast 5 I still thought was like amazing, and it had the car stuff, and then it was kind of like that transition into the more like the more modern Fast and Furious movies.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was Fast 7, Fast 8, and it had Scott Eastwood in it. That one had a little bit more of the cars come back, especially when Roman decides that he's going to drive a bright red-orange Lamborghini in the Arctic tundra. Like,
that was it.
That was it, yeah. Like, Roman, what are you doing? But, you've got cars because they've got the cars that they the government has seized from various whatevers. So I mean, it
Mhm.
kind of they try to go back, but like you said, it's very commercialized now. But it's also like what their plot is. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I still enjoy the movies. Like
yeah.
each movie they have to one up like what one
Mhm.
thing they did last time. Then they're like, all right, Furious 7, we dropped him out of a plane. All right, this time submarine. Um,
Yeah.
or like
There
like
was
Cars versus submarine. But and then for me, the last like couple, I just had like two like minor things that I wanted to bring up that I thought kind of like adapted to 2020 well that weren't from 2020. But the app Pokemon Go, which is timeless, they adapted. So like you could still go outside, we could still do all that stuff. But they have like the remote raid passes. They've made it like they switched up the settings to make it so people didn't have to interact, even though that was like a main part of the app. And I thought that was really cool. Obviously, right now up here in the Great White Northeast, we're not really able to play that much Pokemon Go, at least not comfortably. But I still highly recommend if you've been off Pokemon Go for a while, re-downloading, or if you never did. It's always fun to play, fun to see new people. And then I'd like to give a special honor, a 2020 award medal, if you will, to the modern classic sitcoms, the early 2000s to like 2010 sitcoms, The Office, Parks and Rec. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a more recent one. New Girl, all of those, like the most bingeable content there is on any streaming service, like the 7 or 8 seasons of just like dumb laughs, with also like compelling characters and stuff like that. I feel like it would have been much harder to get through 2020 if you didn't have stuff like that. So like shout out to those creators and those shows and the actors and characters associated with them, because I know I rewatched every single one over quarantine, and I don't know, I just feel like they're at least worth mentioning.
I feel like Friends, even though it was more of like a '90s show, well, it
Friends
was a
too, yeah.
'90s show, but like
Seinfeld.
they get lumped in too because honestly, like Friends for me is just so easy to just go right through, and I will admit I skipped a few episodes because I was like, oh yeah, I remember what happens. Okay, next episode. But
Mhm.
you know, that one gave good laughs and had really good characters too. So
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Friends was kind of like the start of that all. I know like there were things that existed before, but like the obsession with it, especially in the streaming era,
yeah.
definitely came from Friends. I wish they had like a shuffle button for shows like that. Where you
Mhm.
just like, I don't want to watch anything in order. I just want, the dumb
Yeah.
jokes from different things. So normal. I mean, that was kind of like the gist of our 2020 recommendations. But do you have any non-2020 recommendations? I know I have one or two.
Oh,
Like
I
just
mean,
things you've been doing recently. If you don't, no big deal. Because I know we
um,
just talked about a lot of stuff.
I'm trying to remember what it's actually called. It's on Disney Plus. My roommate got me turned on to it. I think it's called The Magic of the Animal Kingdom. Yeah, Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom. It's about their animals that they have down in Florida and like the behind the scenes and like how they take care of them. And it's super cute and kind of funny. And like the fact that the first episode has a vet and they're going, oh yeah, you feel that the giraffe's drooling on you, and he's like, I feel something. It's like, yeah, the giraffe's drooling on you.
Nice.
Like it's wholesome and you can watch it with kids and it's great. So yeah, I would recommend that.
Nice. Something for me recently, I got into Pokemon emulators on my computer, specifically trying to do randomized Nuzlocke. Any of you Pokemon fans that haven't done that, I'm sure you can look up the rules on the internet, but basically you randomize what Pokemon you encounter. You can only catch the first one on each route, and if a Pokemon faints, it dies, so you have to release it. It is ridiculously, it can be very entertaining and very frustrating. So if you're looking for something new to kind of like waste a couple hours on, not waste, because it's very fun to do, but highly recommend those. And then something really recent that I wouldn't clump necessarily into 2020 is new comic series. The not necessarily new, it's a continuation of the DC Metal event, but the Dark Knight's Death Metal 1. I don't want to give any spoilers because it's pretty new, but highly recommend for any Batman comic fans, or I guess 2 also if you're like a New Gods fan. It's an interesting twist. And then the last thing, right before break started here in Mount Pleasant, we got a Popeyes, And I just like to recommend the Popeyes chicken sandwich. We are not like sponsored or anything, but I tried one for the first time, and that stuff is so good. So like the recommendations section, it can be anything, like anything you geek over. I like to consider myself a food geek, and a Popeyes chicken sandwich, if you're just it's not like super cheap like McDonald's, but it is so worth it. So like if you haven't tried one, go do it. If you're looking for an excuse to go out to eat tonight, go to Popeyes.
If you have a Popeyes around you,
if you're in Mount Pleasant, Popeyes. If not, Wendy's is a good chicken sandwich too. So, all right. And I think that is it for today's episode. So I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us this week. And obviously, like everything we talked about today, like this was not all the geeky things that got us through 2020. So let us know in the comments or on social media what got you through 2020. We can start a conversation, maybe bring up some good ones next week. Again, thank you all for joining us, and make sure to join us next week here on Raving Geeks. I've been Brendan Valentine, along with my co-host, Hope Gooderl, and I just want to say, make sure to stay geeky and have a great weeky. So long, everyone.
See ya.